There's so much excitement around Deion Sanders in Colorado, but what is success? What is going to be the pinnacle of Colorado football in 2023? We're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today, we got an action-packed episode. We're talking about the Coach Prime effect, the Deion Sanders effect. It's continuing throughout everything we see. We're going to talk about what is a successful season, and then we're going to be talking about the future of Colorado with Coach Prime at the helm. But joining me is Jake Crain, Mr. J-Boy himself from Jake Crain and Company. Jake, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. It's good to get on here. And, man, I tell you what, Colorado, the profile's really been raised, man. I've talked more Colorado football probably in the last 6 to 8 months and probably my whole life up to this point.
Jake, let me tell you, there was no Locked On Buffs in January. After January, though, here I am. There's definitely a new interest in Colorado, a new profound interest. And there's one reason why, and it's Coach Prime at the helm. We've kind of talked about the Deion Sanders effect in terms of recruiting, the transfer portal, obviously. Can you kind of talk about, you just mentioned it, all the people talking about Coach Prime, whether it's coaches, fans, analysts, talk about the new energy around Colorado.
Yeah, well, look, anytime you have a person in any facet of life, but especially in the sports world, where you say one name and you know exactly who they are and it transcends multiple sports. I mean, think about it. Shohei, LeBron, MJ, Prime. I mean, you know who those people are, and they're going to move the needle. But really kind of the way that the Deion Sanders storm has taken over college football, and I don't mean that to have a negative connotation, but it does touch every realm. I mean, from social media to recruiting to on the field to cultural issues to conference realignment. How he kind of came into Colorado and let the players know the situation about some that were there, which I actually would much rather have a coach be honest with me like that than sit here and dangle the carrot in front of my face and then give me the stick. But yeah, it's something that I think is obviously elevated Colorado's football profile. I think it's raised the standard of Colorado football. It's made it more exciting. It's made it more intriguing. And I think it's not risen Colorado from the dead. I got more respect for the brand out there than that. But it really has been a resurgence for Colorado, and I think has added some much needed PR and some much needed momentum.
Yeah, I think one of the things you touched on too is all the attention that Coach Prime brings for everything he does. Like you said, when he first met with the team, honestly, I agree. I think people just weren't ready for the business side of college football. I think people were just ready for that to stay behind closed doors, and it was like, oh, it's not as fun when we're seeing people get cut in front of our eyes.
Yeah, well, I say all the time, you wanted part of it's a great lesson for young people. If you want to be part of the business world, the business side of it, it's not all roses and rainbows. There's another side to it. That's why, it's kind of an interesting time in NIL right now because, kids aren't getting locked into contracts if they sign with a particular school to receive this NIL money. You're going to start to see that. But I would much rather, even as a player, even before NIL, I would much rather have a coach come in there and be like, listen, you probably need to transfer with what I'm bringing in here. You only have so many years to play this game you love that you've dedicated most of your life to. Your opportunity to play is probably somewhere else, as opposed to coming in and being like selfishly, well, I need to make sure we have depth. I need to make sure I have a good second string and third string guys. So I'm going to lie to you. I'm going to string you along when deep down, I know outside of some injury to this new player or off the field issue, you're probably not going to be able to play. Some people didn't interpret it like that, but at its essence, at its core, that's what it was. And I would rather you be honest with me. And I think that's what Prime was doing.
Yeah, I think too, especially is football is the one sport. All sports has this kind of mindset, but every football player thinks they're going to the league. And realistically,
for sure.
And not every
ego. You got to have ego to play this sport. If you're going to be a grown man that runs around full speed into other grown men, you better have a little bit of an ego at some point.
Right. And I think the ego aspect of Coach Prime, nice segue, Jake. Look at you. The ego aspect of Coach Prime, which I don't really think it's an ego. I think it's just his personality. It kind of comes off as an ego if you're not ingrained in like what he's doing in the day to day. But something that attracted me to having Jake on the show was he was talking about Dan Lanning's comments about Coach Prime a while back, and then it also made me think of Josh Pate a while back said that coaches want to watch Coach Prime crash and burn this upcoming season and in the future because he's doing things so differently, doing things so loudly, and just changing college football. Can you kind of touch on why he's not as popular in the coaching ranks as he is with like the youth?
Yeah, well, you kind of see this in every aspect of life. When there's a disruptor that comes in and kind of not changes the status quo, but kind of shakes it a little bit and shows you there, maybe more than one way to skin a cat. We see it in politics, right? We see it in business. People are uncomfortable being uncomfortable. And I think what you see with Deion Sanders, and to go back to your ego comment, I think when you play the position he played and you go about things the way he goes about things, I think there's a line between being confident and arrogant, and you need to be able to straddle that line. Because what is a 17 to 18-year-old kid, especially a high-level recruit coming out of high school? I mean, you have to have that. That has to be a little bit inside of you. Now, there's different levels to it, to quote Drake on here. But I think there's a good, healthy amount that Prime has. And, again, he's not the only one that you see like this. People have a problem with the way Lane Kiffin does some things. You see the way he embraces social media. Shane Beamer a little bit. Anytime that younger, it's almost the get off my lawn, not that Dan Lanning's an older coach, but he comes from that Kirby Smart school of, I'm not going to say anything that's going to give anybody any momentum. I'm going to be the coach that try and pulls the strings, even though he did exactly that. It's amazing. He got mad at Prime and then did exactly what Prime and Lane Kiffin and these other people do by going out and making waves and basically talking trash. I mean, that's just the truth. That's what he did. So anytime you have a disruptor that comes in, and I think he's embracing this kind of shift in college football that we're seeing with the social media age and kind of the coaching ranks getting younger. You see younger guys taking over other jobs. So I think anytime you come in and you're a disruptor, people are going to want you not to make it, because that means that maybe their thinking on how to make it wasn't exactly the wholesome and best way to go about it. So I think it's a compliment more than anything.
Oh, okay. I like that. And then also something that's interesting to me is I think there's probably been, I would say, at least 5 coaches that I could think of at the top of my head. It was Venables, Lanning, Mora at UConn, Matt Rule, we'll go 4 coaches just for the sake of the discussion, that have kind of thrown a shot, or Pat Narduzzi, obviously, that's the other one, who have kind of thrown a shot at Coach Prime and what he's doing. And he never responds. I think that's the interesting part. The only time he's responded was to Pat Narduzzi, and it was because he was prompted. And his response was, I don't know who that is. And so I think that's like the ultimate, like, what are you going to say about him? Because either way, it's not going to bug him. Like you said, I think he's the most accessible coach we have in college football in terms of every move he does is recorded by his son and put on well-off media and stuff like that. And so he's the new era of college football coaches, which I think is where, like you were saying, coaches don't like that. What do you think we're going to see more coaches kind of try to adopt that, or coaches are hoping it doesn't work out so that way they don't have to do that?
Yeah, you know what? Well, I think it's something to where you always want to be yourself, right? If you're more of a rambunctious kind of out there, want to be on social media, want to share stuff type guy, you're going to do that. If you're more of the kind of reserved or laid back or maybe not as out on the forefront type of guy, you need to be that. Because in order to be successful as the head coach and earn that trust from your players, you got to be yourself, whether that's in recruiting. You don't want to be somebody different in recruiting, and then they get there and they're like, who is this guy? Because you lied to me about who you were. So I think a lot of it is kind of embracing who you are. But when you go younger, you automatically go bolder. And since and that's not a Colorado joke. That's actually just
it works out though.
Yeah, I've been doing that all week this week. I don't know what's been going on. But it's something, I think it just comes with the territory. The younger the guys get these jobs, and the more social media based we are and the more media based we are, I think you're going to get this. I think you're going to get more of it. Now, you don't want to come out there and seem like you're copying or swagger jacking Coach Prime, because that's an even worse look than being laid back and not being in the headlines. So a lot of it is being yourself. A lot of it is I don't want to say, and I hate the term, this is my truth. There's the truth and then there's not the truth. I mean, but being yourself and embracing who you are, I think that's your biggest strength outside of being able to coach ball and being able to evaluate recruits. I mean, and having great roster management and structure. So, yeah, I think you're going to see more of it because we're going younger. Places are willing to take bigger risks on younger coaches and lock them into bigger contracts. So I think that's kind of just the nature of the beast and the human condition a little bit.
Yeah, you heard that, old college football coaches. Get out. Us young people are coming. Before we move on, I need you guys to know that this episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by LinkedIn. Every day, or these days, excuse me, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Me personally, my first job out of grad school, Pac-12 Network. Found it via LinkedIn, connected with the recruiter, talked with the hiring manager, found my way there, ended up working as a production assistant. So if you want to find the purple candidate or the perfect candidate like I was, add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, Jake, we're talking about what is a success. I think when you look at it, I'm not a gambling man out here in California, wink, wink. But if you look at the odds, Colorado's win total 3.5. TCU is projected to beat them by 20.5 points. Nebraska by almost 9 points. But if you're betting as a fan, Colorado has the 6th most bets to win a national title. So where is the middle? Like, what is success for Colorado and Coach Prime in year one?
Yeah, well, it's fun to get on here and say, oh, you won one game last year. If you win 2, you double your win total. What a great situation to walk into if you're Prime. But I know his expectation is higher than that. The way he sees himself, the way he views his ability to what I call HGTV, a team quicker than ever now, because the transfer portal, you can flip the house quicker than ever, and even without those 2 weird twin brothers that won't get off my TV. I know the standard and the expectation is raised, but you're only as good as your personnel. Football is a game that's won by players while coaches watch and calm them down. That's what it is at the end of the day. And I look at Colorado. You have Prime's son at quarterback. You have Travis Hunter. You got some skill players that you really feel good about. But that's not where this game is won and lost. That's just for 7-on-7. This isn't basketball. This isn't baseball. One player cannot come in and play really well and win the game while everybody else plays bad. That's not how it works. It's the ultimate team sport. That's why I think it's the greatest sport of all time. Colorado's season and win total is going to be defined by how good they are up front. That's very simple. I look at them. I think that's the hardest part. That's trying to bridge the gap between being a below average team to become a mediocre team or above average team, or then obviously a good team and then an elite team. It's all up front. Look at how Georgia made their run, right, to overtake Alabama. Look how Alabama, Nick Saban turned them into a dynasty. Look how Michigan did it against Ohio State. Look how Baylor and Oklahoma State came up in the Big 12, and then TCU and K-State last year. So Utah in the Pac-12. It's won and lost up front. It's a game of physicality. And I look at Colorado. I think they are good enough up front to win 4 games, which to me, I'm not a mathematician, but that's quadrupling the win total you had year one. And it shows progress because Prime, as elite of a name as he is, right, eventually the on-the-field product has to match up with the vision that you're selling to recruits. And recruits, they want to play for Prime, right? They if everything's even, Prime is going to get a lot more than he doesn't get. But even with NIL, right, and even with these changes in college football, one of the biggest pitches is, I can get you to the NFL. Well, in order to be a high-round draft pick, you need to play in big-time games. You need to be in big-time moments against big-time teams. 3-9 teams are not in big-time moments against big-time teams. So if Prime can show, hey, we're putting together the building blocks. Year one, we won 4, possibly 5. I'm going to get some linemen in here. Next year, we're going to have a chance to win 8. And then we're going to have a chance to get you in front of the scouts that you can turn on that tape and say, well, here's prospect A versus a top 10 pick from Georgia. Let's see how they do in a big-time game. That's the opportunity a lot of these kids want because, like you said at the beginning, it's a great circle back. They all think they're going to play in the NFL. And the NFL is a money pitch like NIL is because we know how much money can be made by going to the NFL, and that's been their dream. So I'm going to say right now I'm leaning toward 4. You never know, though. They could punch above their weight a little bit. I worry about the depth because football is a battle of attrition throughout the season. So I think 4 is a good number.
Yeah, I totally agree. My successful ceiling, this is amazing. Like this year hit, everything went perfect. 6 wins, you get a bowl game appearance. That'd be like everything goes right. But like you said, depth is an issue. I've said it multiple times on my show here. They brought in 50 transfers or 51 transfers.
Yep.
They need at least 35 of them, at least 35 to like be starters. Well, obviously they're all going to be starters eventually, but they need them to be like good starters and good backups.
Come through.
Yeah,
got to come through.
Exactly.
And if they go 6-6, Prime may win Coach of the Year if nobody goes undefeated, because that would be. I mean, that's what I said last year. I was shocked that Jim Mora Jr. and Mike Elko didn't win Coach of the Year with what he did at Duke and what they did at UConn. I mean, if Deion comes in and sends Colorado to a bowl game, I mean, you're going to have more momentum than Augustus Gloop rolling downhill.
Love that. Okay. Quick question, though, because we're talking about the trenches, and honestly, the offensive line, haven't seen much positivity about them. I think they're still – the offensive line is probably the toughest unit to just throw 5 guys together and be like, okay, you guys go figure it out. But the defense line, if the defense line is serviceable, how far can a team go with a mediocre to below average offensive line?
Well, this is I love the coordinator hires that Prime made. I think you've got guys in there that understand that, especially early when you're at a new place. You come in here and you want to use all your ideas, right? You want to be exactly what you want to be, but you have to adjust to your personnel. You haven't had time 2, 3, 4 years to be able to recruit exactly to the system and the identity you want. So you've got to be a little bit malleable. You've got to be flexible. And I think they brought in guys that can do that. As far as the defensive line keeping them in games, I mean, that's what's going to have to happen, right? This is the game of third down. That's why it's called the money down. You see teams, defenses doing this. It's the money down, money down. Coordinators get paid to score. Offensive coordinators get paid to score touchdowns in the red zone and convert on third down. Defensive coordinators get paid to hold you to field goals and get off the field on third down. So defensively, if you're able to rush the passer, you're able to get people in 2nd and 8s. You're able to get them in 3rd and 7s and predictable downs where you can run 2-man. You can run your ripless match. You can run your cover 6, your zones, your exotics, whatever, and not have to manufacture pressure. That's huge. That's going to keep you in games. Now, eventually, you're going to have to be able to move the ball offensively. On the flip side of that, can you line up when it's 3rd and 2, and I know you're running it, and they know you're running it, and God knows you're running it, and be able to get it? That's how you win games. That's how you sit on the ball and melt the clock at the end, and you exert your dominance. Can Colorado do that? I don't know. And the common misconception is, oh, well, we have 5 good offensive linemen. We're going to be okay. No. You need at least 7. You really need 8 if you want to win at the highest level. You need 5 quality. You need 2 that you can probably put in the interior and exterior, 2 swing guys, which are not hard to find. You need a backup center because snapping and stepping is one of the most underrated things in the sport. We don't talk about it enough. I watch guys talk, oh, look at this one-handed catch, which is amazing. Hey, how about you watch that center snap, step, and pass off a snake blitz through the A-gaps with the backside guard? Like that. That's, to me, that's just as impressive. So
we love a big man advocate. Yeah, we love a big man advocate.
You have to be. Like it's the essence of the game. Like if I have better big guys than you, I'm probably going to beat you. But I only think your skill guys, as great as Travis Hunter is, as great as Deion Sanders is, your job is to let the offensive line put them in a position to go make those plays. That's what the offensive line's job is. Now, can they do that? The jury's still out on that.
Okay, so I need like a 1-sentence answer here before we move on. Colorado flops in 2023 if
the offensive line's a disaster.
Okay, that's where I thought you'd go. I just want clarification. But yeah, the offense line's crucial and it still seems like it's a growing unit. But hey, I got to throw a stat at you just because it's all in fall camp. Deion Sanders, 22 touchdowns, no picks. We're taking care of the ball out there. Not that I think that's kind of an indictment on the defense, though. And I need at least one crooked number in the interceptions column. But before we move on, we're going to be talking about Colorado's future with Coach Prime at the helm. What is their ceiling? What is their trajectory of the program when we come back? Okay, joining me, Jake Crain. Jake, appreciate you for joining. Okay, we are talking about Colorado. Obviously, everything's going crazy right now with realignment, which I think people this has been understated. If Coach Prime is not at Colorado, does Colorado get as much hype to the Big 12? Probably not. I don't even know if the Big 12 would want them back. They might just because it's a Power 5 program, but having Coach Prime there is the whole thing. What do you see in 5 years, assuming that Coach Prime doesn't leave? Because I think that's kind of the big notion or big question about Colorado. Where do you see this program heading?
Look, I think as long as the administration and the people that are in power are aligned behind Deion Sanders and they're willing to go the extra mile to get it done to help him, because you need all the help you can get. I think the sky's the limit for Colorado. I mean, what can you not achieve? It's not like Colorado's broke. It's a beautiful place. And it's funny, y'all may be laughing at me. I'm from Alabama. I dated a girl from Colorado Springs. And for some reason, I just can't say Colorado. I just got to say Colorado. So if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. She used to get on me all the time. That's part of it, man. It's I also say y'all and different things like that. But my accent is not nearly as bad as some of my buddies. But now when I get around them, it can be. But that's, I digress. I think the sky's the limit, because obviously when you make that decision, Deion Sanders would not have taken this job with the opportunities that he had and the patience that he could have shown to stay in HBCU and keep building that equity up. I don't think he would have taken it if he didn't feel like this program would give him every opportunity to succeed. And succeeding for him is not saying, hey, we went 8-4. Succeeding for him is winning a national championship. Right. And I think that is probably the main reason why Colorado fans should be excited, is that they are not shooting for good. They're shooting for elite. And you have a guy, and listen, the biggest question about Prime is not whether he can bring the players in. We've seen that. It's not whether he's going to bring excitement or be a PR lightning rod. We've seen that. The biggest question is putting a staff around him and building the structure to become that CEO, to build Colorado into that monster, into that machine that we see around the country. See, that's the trick. It's, are you at a place, number one, location's huge, right? You say location, location, location. Are you at a place that can take you to the mountaintop? I think Colorado is that place. Now, especially going back to the Big 12, which I love what Brett Yormark's doing there. I think you got in a good time. So you're at a place that can do it. Second thing is, do you have somebody that can go in there and flip that switch and put the structure and the architecture and the accountability behind it? You see what Brian Kelly's doing at LSU. Like, we hear terms, the blueprint, terms like I said, structure. What is that? That is turning it into a business where you know what the players are doing at all times, and it's moving towards that one goal, right? There's not a wasted second. There's not just disorganization. You're unbelievably organized. You're unbelievably precise. You have continuity, and there is accountability within the program. I think that he can do that. So I'm not going to sit here and put a ceiling on Colorado, because I think you can do all those things there. Now, will they do it? I mean, I'm not a mind reader. I'm typically pretty close to my predictions. I think it's going to take some time, but I think there is a possibility that Colorado could turn in that machine.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things that work in Colorado's favor, because the biggest criticism I see of Colorado is he's not going to stay. And then also the Big 12, they weren't going to compete in the Pac-12, which honestly, let's be real. They hadn't competed in the Pac-12 except for, we'll give them 1.5 years. I don't count the COVID year if you only played 6 games. I just can't do it. It feels like it's against my moral values, but they made it to the Pac-12 title game once. Other than that, they were struggling. But the Big 12, and I bring this stat up frequently, it upsets the Big 12 fans. The Big 12 was run by Texas and Oklahoma in terms of recruiting. They were 1 and 2 every year since 2010.
The biggest brands, for sure.
Yeah, and then the Big 12 title game, while Texas obviously wasn't winning many of them or Oklahoma were in every single title game available from 1998 until the past couple years. So the Big 12 is clearly up for grabs, and I think having Coach Prime at the forefront leading the way helps. And then people talk about where is he going to go, because I think it was, what was his name? I forgot his name. Someone, an analyst, well-respected on the Rich Eisen show, said in a couple years he's either going to be fired because it's going to be horrible, or he's going to take another job. And so I was just thinking of jobs that would possibly open. And it's like, Miami, is he going to go to his alma mater's biggest rival? I don't know. I don't know what his ties are like that, if he still cares about stuff like that. Florida, is he going to go? Is Billy Napier going to fizzle out? Texas A&M, I mean, maybe, but how long does Jimbo have? They owe him a lot of money. And then you start getting into programs where it's like West Virginia. Is that really an upgrade over Colorado? And so I think the timing is perfect in the Big 12, and the timing is perfect in the landscape of college football because unless Alabama opens up, there's not really a job out there where I'm like, I could definitely see him leaving that for that job. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think there's two destinations that could get Prime away from Colorado.
Yep.
One, you're not getting for a while because Mike Norvell seems like he's figured it out at Florida State.
Yeah.
That would have been my biggest worry. The
Right.
second one is the NFL. That would be the second one. Because again, at the end of the day, ego is a real thing.
Mhm.
Prime is the guy that I still look at as an NFL guy. Yeah, he was a hell of a college player.
Yeah.
But Deion was one of the greatest DBs in the NFL ever. He's still an NFL guy to me. So is that something where if it works out beautifully at Colorado and a GM or an owner wants to take a chance on him, and look, the odds of that aren't great, I don't think, because I think it's going to take time to build up Colorado. But let's say something crazy happens and the NFL wants to make a splash, big PR hire, bring Deion Sanders back to the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, let's say maybe the Falcons or something open up. Is that something where he would take that? I think there's a chance where he would because there's no recruiting in the NFL. That's not how it works. Not that he doesn't enjoy recruiting, but a lot of coaches, even though they may not tell you on the surface, man, being able to go in there and just watch ball, just evaluate guys coming out of college that are much more proven commodities than a high school kid is not that it's easy. It's one of the hardest things in the world. But I think it's Florida State or the NFL, and both of those I think are long shots. But especially Florida State right now, because look, I think there's a chance they may end up in the college football playoff with the schedule they have this year, the capabilities and what they have returning. So those are the two. But if I was a Colorado fan, there's no time to worry about that right now. We got 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, I've been telling Colorado fans, enjoy the moment because realistically, at least in my lifetime, outside of one of my good buddies played at Colorado and outside of that 1 year they made it to the Pac-12 title game, there was really no relevancy for Colorado in my life. When you think of college football, Colorado is not a program that comes to the forefront. Let's just be honest. We're being honest here. You would think of Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, whoever it may be. And now Colorado's in that discussion. Obviously, they're not competing with those teams yet, but they're a brand. People are discussing them. I think I would say at least once a month, Coach Prime has gone viral since I started covering him, and I think it was June. Like once a month, something major happens where it's like everybody's talking about Colorado. Yes. And so I think there's a lot to be excited about if you're a Colorado fan. Okay, Jake, I need one bold prediction, two actually. I want one for Colorado for this year or just in general. And then I need one for college football this year. Just throw out something else so that way we can look back at this moment and be like, wow, Jake Crain was right about that.
I would say that I would say Colorado beat somebody that they shouldn't. I think my one prediction for them is it's not just chalk. It's not, we're getting destroyed by the teams we're supposed to get destroyed by and beating the teams that we should. Not that there's a ton that you should beat right now on that schedule to keep it real, but I think they will beat somebody they're not supposed to beat. And number two, I think a team outside the SEC is going to win the national title.
Ooh, I like that. It hasn't been since Clemson, if I'm not mistaken, right? Trevor Lawrence.
That's correct.
Not to make us feel old, but that was, I think, 2017, 20.
Oh God! Well, I'm literally turning 34 this year, so I already feel old.
I think that was when I was.
My knees already hurt.
I think that was when I was in high school, or maybe early into my college tenure. So that's been a minute since then. I like those predictions, and Colorado's schedule. If all these preseason rankings are right, they're playing at minimum 5 ranked teams this year, with the possibility of 6 or more.
It's basically a Blink-182 song all year.
Pretty much, yeah. It's gonna be tough. But hey, that's what college football is all about: winning games, having fun. And Jake, tell the people where you have fun on your show, and tell them a little bit about what you're doing.
Definitely, man. Well, look, we're over at Crain and Company. The easiest way to find us is on YouTube. It's CRAIN and Company. We're almost to 100,000 subscribers. We're like 4,000 away, I think. So if you like what you heard here, we have a live show. Y'all are on Pacific time out there, correct?
I am. Colorado's on Mountain time.
Colorado's on Mountain time. Golly, doing the math in my head. Here's what I'll tell you. We go live in the morning from 7:30 a.m. Eastern, however that affects you, to 9 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. You can catch that out. We leave the show up there all day. We have live chats, live call-ins, talk everything college football, the NFL. We have a really good time. I played and coached for a long time, especially in Division I level. David Cohn, our co-host, played quarterback at Michigan. And then my brother played at Western State Colorado out there in close to Grand Junction.
You should
it's like
know
the
the time
highest.
zone.
Yeah, the highest elevator is like right next to where the Grinch lives. Is like where they played. Come check us out. We have a great time. I think you'll really enjoy it. And like I said, man, it's something where we talk all sports, but look, it's football season, man. We talk a lot of Colorado as well. But Kevin, man, it's great to join you. Great to see you again. Anytime you need me, brother, you guys do a really, really good job over there in Locked On.
Appreciate having you on. Not to get political, I just don't think mountain time zone's a real thing. I just don't see it.
Why can't we just be okay, I'm so glad you said this, Kevin. I'm so glad you said this. There's just a couple. Can I just say a couple things real quick?
Go ahead. Go on.
Number one, why? And look, people will have arguments like against it, but why can't we just be on one time zone? Like really, that. Why do you think the compass isn't different? Like from one coast to the other, it's like it's the same compass, right? So let's just be on the same time zone. It just gets darker earlier. It's like daylight savings time. Why do we have it? Doesn't matter. Throw it away. And also, week 0 is not a thing. Why do we keep saying that?
We love it though, Jake.
It's not like it's week 1. Like it's just like patient 0. What? What's that? A ghost? Is that Casper? It's the first patient. Pre-boarding for an airplane. You're not pre-boarding. You're the first people to board the plane. We need to stop doing this semantics with words. Get rid of time zones. Kevin, let's lead the charge. I'll Paul Revere this whole thing.
That's fine. I'll be right behind you. The time zone things confuse me. I think my biggest issue with getting Jake on the show was I had no idea what time zone he was in. He was like, I'm in Indiana. I was like, okay, I'm going to tell you my time and you figure it out.
Yes, exactly. I don't want to have to do Pythagorean theorem to figure out what time I'm coming on Locked On Buffs.
I feel it, dude. But we're going to have you we're going to have you on Locked On Buffs frequently. We're almost at 2,500 subscribers. Not 100,000, but we're getting there.
Dude, hey, look, getting it out of the mud.
Hey,
man.
We're only a couple months old, so we're getting there. We got a lot of great guests coming up. We're previewing games. We're previewing everything. We're going to have film breakdowns. So you guys make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Have a great day.